you know any specifics on it. So, but starting with what is NMAP? Basically, a security scanner, right? I think everyone knows, kind of thinks the red team thing. You got a machine in a network, now you want to see what's there, see what ports open, that type of thing. Kind of the blue team approach is, scan yourself, right? You found out some girl in accounting is running, a web server so she can share her cat pictures with her coworkers. That's probably not cool. Probably need to take care of that, right? So, just saying. Okay, so it's famous as being a port scanner, but you can use it to find machines on network. That's discovery. Obviously, the port scanner. It can do things where it can get the service banners, and we'll go over that. It can check when it scans someone against profile and try to identify what operating system you're using. And probably the really sexy, functionality is the scripting engine. So we'll at least touch all those things. So before I go and do crazy things, let me tell you, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. If you port scan people, it could, you could have people come and visit you, and it would not be a good visit. In this activity, and when I do demos, I actually have a little virtualized machines that I'll work against. But if you don't have that, the people that created NMAP, which is Fedor, actually has a host that is literally for scanning. In fact, let me see here. There it is. On the website, it shows there, you are authorized to scan this machine. So you have written permission from Fedor to scanme.nmap.org. So if you need a punching bag, there's your punching bag. So now, getting it installed. If you're running Kali, it's there, obviously. Most Linux distributions, even if they're not security oriented, they'll be packages, whatever version you use. On Mac, I've installed it with Homebrew, works great. Windows, you can actually download this normal installer program. And of course, it's open source, right? So you can always download, compile, and install it. If you're old school, that's not me. So for those of you who do like GUIs, and just want to have a GUI to work with, there is a GUI interface, ZenMap. I've actually played with it on Kali. I'm more a command line person, but it is some of the visualizations stuff, not bad, really. But I know that for tech people, you have to use command line because that's how you're cool. What's up?
It's also really good if you don't know the flags that you're looking for.
Yeah.
It will show you the actual command and that is running.
Yeah.
So it's a good cheat sheet if you need to pull a flag for a script or something like that.
Yeah. Instead of having some cheat sheet or looking to man, you can use ZenMap, and yeah, it's good with that. So good tool. Now we're talking about what basically started as a port scanner, so we'll explain what ports are. Basically, it's an interface you can talk to a service on a machine. If you think of a machine like a building, a port's like a door. Equivalent metaphor there. Some ports we probably already know, 80, 22, 443, others. Now, one thing of interest is if you want to run a service on a machine, ports 1 through 124 are privileged ones. They're special reserved, and so you have to probably be root or some privileged user to be able to run a service on that, generally speaking. There are exceptions. For ports, basically, in the TCP and UDP headers, they allow you 16 bits. So basically, you have 65,000 plus ports, possible ports are there. That's 2 to the 16th power. So there is a little bit more involved, but we'll basically consider a port is open if there's a service listening and you can talk to it, and closed if you can't. It's a little bit more nuanced, but basically that. And with especially UDP, it may be really hard to know for sure if a port really is open. TCP pretty sure, but UDP, and let's get into that. So TCP is a connection-oriented protocol. There's kind of a ritual to build and establish connections, and if a packet's missing, they'll do retrans. So you're pretty sure that data is going to get through. Whereas with UDP, they put it on the wire. And something like, say, audio or video, where you don't want the retrans because it's not going to help things, that's the case you'll use UDP. And there's some like famous ones, DNS, so on and so forth. So if you don't understand what I'm going to say, just kind of, when you see the examples, it'll make a lot more sense. With TCP, there's what they call the three-way handshake. Basically, when you try to connect with someone, you're going to send a SYN packet. The machine's going to respond with SYNAC. Hey, I want to talk to you. Let's talk. And then you're going to acknowledge them. That's the three-way handshake. The reason why I bring this up is on some of your scans, it's going to have some nuances in how it handles this three-way handshake for TCP. So going into NMAP, they go through a series of steps, and this is the sequence. Not all steps are always performed. But basically, when it starts out, enumeration, so say you give it a host name, it's the first thing it's going to do is get the IP. That's that first part. Then it's actually going to try to send something to that machine to verify that it's actually there. Then, obviously, potential, you don't always have to do it. It does reverse DNS. Then it does the actual thing you're familiar with, port scanning. Then right after that, it could actually get try to attempt to identify the version, OS. Traceroute's not always done. It can be options for that. Then it runs the scripts. Then it actually gives you the results. So just kind of understand the different steps. And sometimes you're going to not want to perform some of these, depending on what you're trying to do. So on host discovery, it'll try to find machines, right? The thing about that is if you don't want to do a port scan because that's kind of busy, you can actually just send basically what it says ping. Now when you think ping, most of us think ICMP. It actually does send an ICMP packet, but it'll also send to port 80 and port 443 by default. You can change that. The benefit is sometimes the firewall will block everything, but maybe open up 80 and 443 for a web server. So by not just doing ICMP, it actually has a higher chance of finding a machine that might not be found if you just did ping. So that's an interesting part. You can actually turn off host discovery. And one of the scans we'll talk about here, you might want to do that. And be that way because you're trying to be stealthy, and sending the ping is obviously not stealthy. Another interesting thing in host discovery is what they call an ARP ping. This is local only. You run this scan against machines on the same network. You can't do it across the internet and do ARP ping. It doesn't work. But what it would do is allow you to discover hosts, even if really none of the services are working, because it kind of works at a lower level. Kind of a neat trick. So talk about probably the most simple, straightforward type of port scanning. And for TCP only, so you're not getting your UDP, it's a connect scan. It does a complete three-way handshake. And then it comes back, whatever responded, it'll show you, hey, the results. So, for example, get into it here. And so say I did NMAP, and I know the subnet, so I'll just go ahead and do that here. So I'm going to scan the entire Class C subnet. And because I'm not root, I'm doing a connect scan. And I see what machines come back. And that's an example of a connect scan. Now the thing on that is if you do a lot of hosts and a lot of ports, then what happens is this would be slow. Not terribly slow, but slower than if you do a SYN scan, which will be the next one. So normally, if you don't need to include the parameter, if you're just an unprivileged user to do a connect scan. The next one is a SYN scan. And what this one does, this breaks the rules. Because what you're going to do, you're going to send a SYN, you're going to wait for the SYN ACK, and you're not going to respond with the ACK. You're breaking some of the protocols with this. Not too bad. But the benefit of this is it's quicker because you're not doing the whole handshake. Now you do need to be root usually to do this, because whenever you're breaking the rules, doing something crafty, only root gets to do that, generally speaking. And it is faster. Another scan is UDP Scan. And like we mentioned before, that one doesn't have the ritual, the handshake that was involved with TCP. You do need to be privileged, generally. It is slow. So like if you ever want to put a dent in War and Peace, start, UDP Scan and start reading. You'll have time. You'll get some work done. So what I recommend with this is that you actually include the V at the end. I'm going to talk about version, but when you do the UDP scan with the V, then it'll try to grab the banners of the services are running, and that kind of gives you, if you're going to spend this time, get some decent results, and the V kind of enhances the results you're going to get. So an example below there. Xmas or Null Scans. This plays on the standards. There are standards where things are supposed to behave a certain way if certain packets are sent to it. Again, you're breaking the rules because you're actually setting different flags. And if you want to think of flags, kind of like dip switches, on-off switches for certain settings in a TCP. So basically, say a Christmas scan. I'll use that example. With a Christmas scan, when you're sending it, you send packets to them. If the service is up, it will not reply, but if the service is down, it will send you a reset packet. So it's kind of works in reverse. It's kind of an elaborate approach to that, and basically Null Scan works similarly. One thing about this requires the system to be compliant, do things by the rules, which means it doesn't work with Windows, because Windows decide to do their own thing and they don't follow the RFCs right. So Christmas scans and Null Scans will work against most Linux machines, but will probably break against Windows, just how it is. This is a fun one. This is a type of scan. So what you're doing here is, say there's a machine on a network. Say a printer, like a dusty printer, never gets used, but it's on your network. So what you're going to do is you're going to have forge requests to your target as if you're that idle machine. But the first time you reach the idle machine, you're going to check its sequence number. Then you're going to forge the thing. Ideally, if the port is open, it's going to try to reach the idle machine. The sequence number will advance, and then when you reach your idle machine again, now you'll see that it advanced, so that port must be open. But the whole idea about this is it looks like somebody's getting port scanned by their printer instead of by your machine. So it's kind of a fun one.
I assume that's an I, not an L.
Yeah, an I. Yeah, the font wasn't really great. Sorry about that. True. Now, one thing about that is this is it's great when you can do it, but there's a whole lot of variables that make this one kind of hard to pull off. Because if that idle machine isn't as idle as you think it is, then it screws up everything, right? But it's fun, and this is actually an example of when you would want to turn off that probe part, because you don't want it to ever see anything from you, right? You're trying to hide the fact that you're port scanning somebody by basically having a patsy machine that's going to take the fall for it, right? So that's the idle scan. Kind of fun one. Again, you have to be privileged to be able to pull this one off. Root. Now, after port scan, there are more port scans than this, but I think those are like the fundamental ones and some interesting ones. Again, the next step NMAP goes into is service and application version detection. Basically, whenever you connect to a service, usually that service will have a little banner, right? It'll say, hey, I'm OpenSSH version whatever, right? What NMAP does is it grabs that banner. Because what happens, we assume normally that, say, let's go back up here, that SSH is running on port 22 because that's what SSH runs on, right? But if you have a system administrator trying to be crafty, so he like makes it run on port like 2222 or something like that. If you do version scanning, you'll actually be able to see that. And so let's go ahead and do that. So all you do is the SV in there. And it'll take a while. I probably shouldn't have tried to reach as many machines. Let me just try to reach one machine. That'll probably not take as much time. So what it'll do is you're going to get the results plus a little bit more. Any day now, Jeopardy music, there we go. Okay, so there you go, where it'll actually come back and show you the banners for that service. And you know, if you're, oh, I see an old vulnerable version of whatever on there, right? Then it's Christmas, right? Okay, so that's kind of the version detection. The next step is OS detection. What happens is when NMAP has developed like basically kind of fingerprints or profiles for different OSs. So after it scans, it compares against the profile and says, hey, I have this level of confidence that it's this machine. So let's do that. So let's see here. Let me just make this easier. So all I have to do is O in this case against this machine. Okay. Oh, I have to be privileged, don't I? Okay. So now we'll do it. So you break the rules, you have to be privileged. Works like real life. Okay. So it'll come back and it'll say, you know, it tried to detect. It says, you know, okay, we think you're running Linux, and you know, in this case, yeah, quite true. But if you're interested, in fact, let's show you this. User, share, nmap. In this directory, in the directory where it's at, you'll actually have OSDB. So nmap. Come on. OSDB.
Is that a file?
Oh yes, it is. Yeah, that's me. Thank you. So it has basically what we can consider like profiles of different OSs. And that's what it uses to say, okay, I think it's this, I think it's that. I have a machine at my house that when I scanned it, because I put some firewalls around it, even though it's a Linux machine, it thinks it's like one of these like home gateways, Zyzel, something. It's, yeah. So it's not always, you know, reliable, but useful. Now, some things you can do to optimize this connection, where before we did that stealth scan, the idle scan, and you're basically hiding the actor, right? You're doing it, but you want to blame something else. With timing, you could actually slow down the scan. And the benefit of that, if you slow down the scan, maybe the system, you know, they've got an intrusion detection thing, won't be able to pick up that you're scanning because you've spaced it out enough that, oh, it doesn't notice that. I wouldn't count on that, but you know, you could try to do that. Basically hide your port scan by slowing it down. Default speed is 3. Here actually they recommend a maximum speed that you should use is 4, but you can do 5. When it rushes, the results aren't quite so good. So going with a 5 will give you results really quick, but your results may not be as, you know, high quality here. So let's do that.
And lots of IDSs flag on fast scanners.
Yes, yeah, but yeah, you fast scan it, you know, Ray Charles can see you doing what you're doing, right? So let's do it here. So I'll say T, and I do 5. I'm gonna get like results instant, almost, right? Yeah. Now I did do the slow one, but again, War and Peace might be what you want to do because it does take a long time. But it's fun. Another thing you can do, another optimizing kind of tool you can do, is adjust the timeout. And what that does is, say you're scanning a machine and you skipped discovery. So there's a possibility that machine actually doesn't even exist, right? Normally it has a certain timeout. It sends out your request, but it waits. And the problem is, it could wait on nothing. So you can actually set a timeout. And the benefit of that is now you're not waiting so long to get your results on something that isn't even there. So that's useful. There are some other flags you can do, but I consider these to kind of be the interesting parts of that. NMAP can be used to feed other tools you're using. You can get your scan, then take the results of the scan, maybe feed it to Metasploit or some vulnerability scanner. So here's the outputs. The options are normal, and that kind of looks like the results you're seeing here, right? XML, I'm not going to subject you to looking at XML. I hate looking at that. S is for script kiddie. Yeah, that's an interesting, I don't know what usefulness is. Maybe it's fun. I don't know. I didn't see the purpose in script kiddie so much myself. Grepable actually puts like the host name and the results online, so it's when you're trying to grep through your results, it's kind of a little bit more friendly for that. A is for all. Basically, it's going to give you output of all. The NMAP, the XML, so on and so forth. Yeah. So, fun there. So, scripting engine. And actually, I want to maybe stop before doing scripting engine and do some fun stuff with NMAP, because why not? So, let's do this. So, say I have this virtualized lab, and I just want to kind of go through kind of something kind of from the start. So, say you just got on this machine, and you want to know, kind of see what's going on with the other machines in the network. So, you look at its interfaces. You see, oh, I have this. I have I'm on this is like a 24 block. So say you now want to find out all the machines in that block. So I do NMAP. I don't want to port scan them immediately, so I'm doing SN, right?
You do NMAP correctly.
Yeah. SN do 172, 128, and dash. And again, you can use 1-254. I just like that notation. So it comes back and tells me I've gotten 4 machines, 5 machines up. Yeah. So now, with that, I'd probably be willing to run a normal scan. So NMAP, and just do not the whole block, but maybe 1 through 5, 1 through 4. 5, yeah. So I'll come back, give me some results. Now, obviously, I've included a punching bag in this library, in this VM space. I have Metasploitable running, so it'll give us some fun things to look at. So, .5 looks fun because you've got Telnet who does that today. But let's do it. So let's see a little bit more about what versions of what's running in there. So I'll do my SV against that machine. 5. Come back and it should give me. Oh yes, one NMAP by default does not actually scan all 65,000 plus ports. By default, it does the first 1,000 most popular ports, not the 1 through 1,000, but the most common popular ports. That's what it does. If you want to scan every port, then you add in -p, a dash. And the dash at the end basically says everything. Okay, so you can do that. We're not going to do it at this point. So I look like I have a machine that's running Telnet. Shame on them.
So that does the full 65,000, or just the full 1,000?
The most popular 1,000 is
so
what.
it'll do 1 through 1,000 with
No,
Yeah.
it'll do. Well, it is. Say for example, a good question. Is say if you have like there's popular services like 3306 is what?
MySQL.
It's MySQL, right? Common one. So it won't do 1 through 1,000. It'll do, okay, these are popular services and they're on these ports. I'm going to grab the top 1,000 most popular. So it won't be 1 through 1,000. It'll just be those top 1,000 most popular.
But when you do the dash P dash,
That's everything.
That's everything, all 65 plus.
Yeah, okay, that's why I was
Yeah.
curious. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I was wondering if it was doing the first just 1 through 1,000 or doing the full 65.
It does the full 65.
That
Yep.
must take forever.
Yeah, you know, there's reasons why you don't do that as a default, right?
Mhm.
So, getting into, well, let's actually go back to talking about scripting engine, and then we'll come back to abusing Metasploitable. So, that'll be fun. So, the scripting engine, basically, it allows you to put some code and add some, extend the functionality, right? It's been with us about 10 years. Thank you, Google's Summer of Code, because they added all that functionality during that time. There are a lot of scripts. You can write your own, and we will actually go show you some scripts, and one I wrote to solve a problem for me at work. And all the default scripts, the ones that are included, can be found at this path. So let's go cd scripts. And there are a lot of them. If I do ls, so you count L, I have 535 right now scripts that come. These are the default scripts. There are probably more if I updated my database, right? A lot of different functionality. We'll go into some of that. So one example, and in fact, actually, let's do one. I'll do NMAP script, and say I want to run all the SSL scripts. Anything that starts with SSL, that's by doing it this way, that grabs all those. And say I go against one of my machines. Now, one thing I can do to make this return quickly is limit the port to 443. So now it won't port scan everything. It'll just hit that port that I'm most interested in doing this, right? And I'll probably get results back a lot quicker here. Okay, and so it'll tell me things about my certificate. It'll tell me what ciphers I'm supporting, useful stuff. So that's an example of what a script can do for you. And we'll actually go into creating scripts too. So that's a good example. Now what happens is these scripts have categories. Some things are safe. They do normal interaction. They shouldn't break a machine. And some scripts try to, abuse the behavior, and those are considered intrusive. And there's a bunch of things. You could use NMAP to discover a machine, port scan it, see a service you think is vulnerable, run a brute force attack, and get root. You use no other tool. You could actually use NMAP will do all that for you, basically. So we'll hopefully demo that a little bit here against Metasploitable. So we'll do that. Now, scripts will actually almost always belong in more than one category. Usually they'll always be either safe or intrusive, and then like what other type of functionality or category they fall into. So I'm pretty sure there'll be more than that. Now, let's not do that. Okay, now writing scripts. In fact, before I do that, let's start punishing Metasploitable. So what happens, I know they were running a telnet service. So let's see what scripts exist that related to telnet. I got a few. I got a brute force tool. Nice. So let's do that. And we're going to do telnet brute. I know my port is port 23, so we'll save our time, and we'll attack this machine. 5. Now it's going to take a while because brute force, that's how it happens. So we'll go back to talking about writing scripts, and then we'll come back and see if we have credentials in a little bit. Okay, so writing scripts. Scripts are written in Lua. So who here ever modded World of Warcraft? Come on, at least somebody. No? Okay. Won't admit it. That's okay. But what happened is Lua, it feels kind of like Ruby and Python, like they have one night stand. There you are. Anyways, they have three basic sections to an NMAP script. You have the head, and the head is mostly metadata. Then you have the rule, and basically this is a condition that must evaluate to true in order to run the action, which is kind of the payload, the functional part of a script. But basically, all NMAP scripts will have this basic format to it. From personal experience, the D option is awesome when you're writing your scripts and you're trying to figure out what's not working. Yeah, so D, when you're writing a script and you're like, why is this not working right? That's the one you want.
You give the D.
The D. Yeah, the D flag, and it'll work. Now, there are a bunch of libraries. Instead of you having to write all the functionality yourself, you can actually leverage a number of libraries. So, let's see here. I think I have some bookmarks for these. Let's see. Okay, NSE libraries. There we go. So, let's see. I hope this is readable. There are a number of, yeah, that's decent. Let's try to bump that up a little. What happens is these libraries give you certain functionality. So let's go into that. Like, say they have a brute library. And so instead of having to figure out how to write brute forcing script functionality, they have it, and you just basically leverage the library. So if you wanted to write one to brute force SSH, you don't have to figure out the brute force part. You just have to make it work against SSH. And that can save you a lot of time in writing a script. Kind of cool. So that's what those 120 standard libraries. Now, I wrote this script, the simplest one I could think of, but it has no real meaningful functionality, but it does show you kind of the composition of a script. Basically, you have your metadata at the top, basically from description to categories. Then you have your rule, like the thing that must be evaluated to true, and then what it will do. In this case, if a port is open, I'm going to return open. So again, it's not that interesting, but it's simple enough that you can kind of, okay, this is how a script works, right? But it's not that interesting. Sorry about that. But I've got another script that's a little bit more practical. It solves a real-world problem. So we're going to go to that one. Let's see how close we are to punishing Metasploit. Hasn't given it up yet. Metasploitable. But let's go to here. So I wrote a script called SSL Expiration. Basically, here's the use case. My marketing department at my company has like over 1,000 websites. I've got SSL certs on all of them. And what I don't want to do is run like something like SSL Labs to see the expiration date on all of them. I don't have time for that. So what I can do is I can write a script where NMAP will come, talk to it, pull the script from the service, check the expiration date, and show it output to me. And that saves me a lot more time. So this is the NMAP script I wrote. So let's just look at my NMAP script and then we'll run it. So SSL expiration, right? I'm going to scroll back up here. So the first thing I do is I include a whole bunch of the libraries that I talked about earlier. So I don't have to do all the work. I just leverage that. Then I have my little metadata, all my tags. My port rule in this case, and I'm sorry that that's off the screen a little. Let's see. Any way I can fix that? No. Well, it's not super critical. Basically, what it does is it checks to see if the port has SSL on it, or if it's a port supported by SSL. Because I don't want to try to do this against a port that doesn't apply to. Now, I've added a little bit of functionality in here. What happens if we go back to action? What it does is it pulls a certificate. If I got a certificate, then what I do is I take this certificate, get the not after, because that's the expiration date. I use this function which I wrote, which is basically, because normally it's not formatted in something that a human could understand. So I format it. Then what I do is, in the end, I take that formatted result and I show it to you. Again, it's not a super complicated script, but it does something useful. So let's do it. Clear, let me get it up here. So let's do, oh yes. Do I have, nope, I don't have some targets. So let's add some targets. So target list. So I want to add a few websites, ones I control. Let's see, and one other Hydro hack. Okay, so I've added some machines to a list, right? And if I had 1,000, okay, it'd just be more. So I do NMAP script, then my script, which is SSL Expire. It won't autocomplete for me. That's okay. And then what I'll do is I'll do port 443 because it'll speed things up for me, right? Then what happens is instead of having to manually type in these, I can do input from a list. That's the IL. Now I'm going to specify my targets, and my targets are this target list. And what I'll do is it'll go through the target list and give me results, hopefully soon. There we go. And what it does is it shows the expiration date of my certificate. So it looks like I'm going to have to renew some soon here. But that's what my NMAP script does. Kind of fun and useful, but not too complicated. So let's see how Metasploitable is doing. Still hasn't given it up yet. Okay, so that's my kind of practical example. If you're interested in looking into more about NMAP, obviously the website, you've seen it a little bit tonight. There's the NMAP network scanning book. Is a big purple book, thick book. I couldn't find it online. The NMAP book is online, but some chapters, not the whole book. So I ended up having to buy the whole book. Found it on Amazon. If you're just trying to learn some basic stuff, I think NMAP Essentials, it's a packet pub book. If you have Safari books online, it's available there. And if you want to have a little handheld reference,
I actually have that first book. I just got it, but it's just scanned in pages.
yeah,
Like it's like 900 pages or something.
yeah,
So, but yeah, it is out there.
yeah, it is out there. Of course, you can get anything on the internet, right? Yeah. If you want a good quick reference guide, the Sans actually has an NMAP cheat sheet, which I think is pretty worth printing up and having nearby. Let's see how Metasploitable is doing. It just doesn't want. It's got stage fright. It doesn't want to give it up. Okay, that's fine. But at this point, I'll answer questions if I know the answers. Go ahead.
Your code for the SSL cert, do you happen to have that on GitHub or anything where someone can get it? That's a really useful script for a problem I'm dealing with.
Okay, I have not put it on GitHub. I do have it on me now. I can give it to you. I probably should put it on GitHub. I should probably try to submit it to get it included in the library. Other questions?
Can you go back one slide real quick?
Yes, I can go back one slide. Yeah.
But you can't ask questions.
Oh, no, that's fine. Here's cool. Yeah.
Do you have to put your script in that location of the NSE?
You don't.
Oh, okay.
You can be in your local directory. It'll pick that up. In most cases, I've never had that problem. Usually, NSE scripts will end with .nsc. That's just the convention. Yeah. You're good? Or can I give it?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, and you're not excited about NMAP, maybe this will help. Trinity uses NMAP. what it is like, you know, and I think the Matrix Reloaded, she uses NMAP to find that they're running, you know, SSH, runs SSH nuke against it, which was an exploit available at that time.
That was a 0 day, right?
Yeah, that is a 0 day.
Like,
Yeah,
that
it's-
wasn't even published. No one knew about it.
Yeah. But you know, she runs SSH nuke, sets the root password, and then gets in the system, takes down the power grid. Kind of awesome. So, but thank you for coming.
Thank you.